What's up, folks? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to Indie Showcase. Yes, we don't have a shmup or a roguelike this week. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, this is interesting. This is one I've actually had code for several months now, and for one reason or another, I just didn't get around to it, and I actually feel kind of bad about that, because having done a run of this game, it's something I really wish I could have recommended more when it launched, because I think it's worth checking out. So this is Silicon Dreams, and if you go way back on my channel to 2019 when I was doing Indie Showcase as a live stream with a different organization, I did a stream of a game called Spinnertality, which was made by this same developer, or one of them at least. And the idea behind that was you were running your own sort of cyberpunk techno-dystopian corporation. The game was mostly menus, but it had some really cool concepts behind it and some really neat ideas, and so does this. This is a game, it's kind of like Papers, Please, but not really. It's a cyberpunk interrogation simulator. And now I've actually completed one run of this. This is a game kind of like Papers, Please, in that choices really matter, and there are a number of different twists and turns and ultimate conclusions that you can reach. So I have done one full story arc of this that took about 4 hours. You can do several runs of it. You also unlock a rewind function to go back to specific points in your story when you've completed it once. So you don't necessarily have to start from scratch if you don't want. But this is the bulk of it. This game, visually and concept-wise, is quite simple. The graphics in this are very, very basic. But it does have this really good synthwave soundtrack to it, but it's mostly menus and it's mostly text-based conversation, but it's a fascinating concept. So you are an android. You're in a distant future where androids with human-like qualities, including emotional capabilities, are everywhere. You work for a sort of cyberpunk mega corporation that invented and controls most of the androids in the world. And some androids have gone rogue. There's kind of perhaps some kind of, dissonant movement happening here. And you have to deal with a bunch of different androids in different circumstances, question them, fill out a report for your superiors. You have to try to do it as accurately as you can. And then you have to just try to decide what to do with the android. Whether you release it, whether you send it for maintenance and reprogramming, or whether you destroy it. And there's not always one right answer. You can approach things in very, very different ways, which I think is pretty interesting. So you're given a little briefing here. These are the questions that you have to fill out and the ultimate choice that you have to make. And then what happens is, when you get things started, this is what you see. So the androids that you end up talking to, most of the time, they will not be restrained, and you treat this as a question and answer session. They can't see you, you can't see them, and your conversations are not actually kept on record, but the outcomes of what you do are graded, and you have a company rating that will affect how the story progresses as well. So this is mostly asking questions, determining emotional responses from those questions, or what you think they're going to do based on the android's personality and characteristics, because some of the androids in this have the ability to feel certain emotions, some don't, and for some those emotions are capped at a certain length or a certain level of intensity, not so much a length. And you don't have to ask every question, and in fact, asking some questions can be detrimental to what you're trying to achieve. So you want to try to ask the questions that will give you the most amount of information related to your objectives. And you can see here, there's various different subjects that it will branch off to, and as you get certain answers, other branches will open up for you. And you really want to try to glean out all the information that the game is asking you for, and you want to try to make sure that you keep your subject's emotional state where you want it to be, because the subjects also have to trust you to a certain degree. They will not release certain information to you if they don't trust you, or if they are not in a certain emotional state when you ask it. So you really have to be careful at how you stack things back and forth, and you will glean different clues both from the subject, and certain cases you will also be given a piece of evidence that you can look at, and you'll also be given sometimes emails throughout the course of your conversation. You can also go back and look at the entirety of the conversation that you had and see also what emotional impact and influence it had on the subject. There's a lot to this, a lot more than it might seem, and you can emotionally manipulate the subject by playing different sound effects and stuff in the room to evoke certain emotions. Certain subjects will also start handcuffed. You can disengage their restraints whenever you want to build trust. You can also use them on other subjects to strike fear into them, which you might want in some cases as well. Your objectives will often be quite a bit different between the different subjects and what you're looking to do. You'll occasionally even be interrogating human subjects for certain reasons that I won't go too deep into here. So you can see here, subject did not understand the gravity of the situation. Fear might allow them to reevaluate their priorities. So he needs to be more scared. So you've got your sort of matrix up here that shows you what they're looking at. So you can invoke those things through questions, or you also get a one-time use of these different when did you last questions to give them sort of a one-time emotional shock. Over time, regardless of whatever emotion that you trigger, the subject's emotions will start to calm down. So if you need the guy to be scared, you want to potentially really boost that quickly, because if you don't, it may drop down before you get a chance to ask. So we want him to be more scared, right? So when did you last feel truly shocked? And they'll, if it works, they'll tell you a little story, and it may give you some questions that you can use to boost that objective. So honestly, this is the majority of the gameplay here. And what you have to do is be like, I'm kind of jumping through this obviously to show it to you here, but you've really got to be careful with how you go through this. You have to read a lot of what the subject is saying. There is a lot of reading in this, but the thing that I do like about this game is that it doesn't waste words, for lack of a better term. It's very good at its writing is very good at conveying a lot of information and a lot of emotional nuance in only a few sentences. So you see now we got him really scared here, right? So we should probably back up and be like, there. So we got him scared enough that we were able to get him to open up about that situation, right? And I find the writing in this isn't a good word to use, but it also makes sense. It's very efficient. It's not bad writing. In fact, I think the writing in this is one of its best parts. Also, the sense of atmosphere that this game creates with this sort of teal UI and this very cyberpunky kind of synthwave music, I think it works together. I think it works together very, very well. And yeah, the writing conveys a lot of information in very few words, and that's a hard thing to do. That's something I struggle with, as longtime fans of mine may know. And I think that really does a lot for the game. Now, without going into spoilers here, if you're familiar with games like Papers, Please, you're going to know that interesting twists happen in this. You'll have people reach out to you. You'll have an opportunity to participate or not in certain things and certain events that can significantly impact the outcome of the story. The outcome that I got in my run was kind of unexpected. It was mostly expected, but the last part of it did not go the way I thought, which was kind of cool. Because I will say that some of the choices in this are definitely not as hard in a lot of more well-known misery simulators like Papers, Please, or this War of Mine, or something like that. I found that a lot of the times it can be pretty obvious what you need to say So you see the subject is overcome with fear, right? So with this, sorry, I'm just going to break in here. So here, let's do this. Let's turn on the sound that evokes joy, and let's take off his restraints. See, that really tanked his fear down, right? So that's going to help a lot. See, I know I can trust you. The game is a little obvious, I'm going to say, with things like that. In terms of, like, when you're trying to determine, does this person trust me or not? It will make that fairly clear. You don't necessarily have to read between the lines to know what a person's opinion of you is. The game will make that fairly obvious. I've also found that a lot of the times when you look at the things you need to say to get them to a certain emotional state, it's pretty obvious. Like, if you want to direct the subject down a certain path, it's not necessarily super hard to deduce what you need to do. And I kind of thought, when I did my run, I was like, well, it's going to be easy to get the ending I'm looking to get here because this just isn't that hard. And I mostly did get there, but not all the way I wanted to, and it kind of surprised me what happened. So I think this can surprise you a little bit. And if you do want to see all the different outcomes of this, then you're going to want to play it several times or make liberal use of the rewind function and go back and make some very, very different choices. And it does give you that option. There are a lot of different conclusions to this. So if you only want to one and done this, it'll probably take you about 4 hours. If you want to see all the outcomes, I could easily see this taking you well over 10 hours, maybe even close to 20. So, you know, I think that's pretty cool, and it's gives the game a lot of replay value. This being a game that is very, very basic visually as well, this will probably run on somewhat potato hardware, so you could play this on a fairly low-end system or even a laptop, most likely, I imagine. But the thing is, much like Spinnertality, which was also very light on the production value front, the production values are not the major selling point of this game. I think even with the basic graphics that this has, the atmosphere that it creates is very conducive to what you're doing. The music and the visuals can make you feel tense and make you feel like you're in charge of something important, I guess. And that's what I really enjoy about it. I think the whole atmosphere works really well, and combined with the good writing, and sometimes when I was faced with choices where I was like, I gotta really sit here and think for a minute, because even when you choose to go down a certain path or you want to go a certain direction in the game, some of the choices that come up, I'm like, I kind of don't like myself having to do this. And I think kind of what screwed me in my playthrough and got me kind of a not as conclusive ending as I wanted is that there were some places where I probably should have made a specific choice and I just didn't. I just couldn't. And that sort of deviated me from the direct path I was trying to go down. So I think it handles that very well. For a game that was made by as few people as this was, I think it's quite impressive. You know, doing this kind of genre is not all that easy, because it's got to be very compelling and your choices have to feel like they have weight. And they do in this. This is a game like I said, I wish I'd covered sooner when it was newer, because I wish I could have given it a little bit more attention. But I'm hoping that people will find this interesting. Now, because I do think this is quite compelling, and I thought Spinnertality was interesting as well, but that game is definitely more of a management sim, and it's a lot more menus than this is. It was a lot less. It was more about, yeah, the management end and less about the back-end narrative and the story and interaction with characters. This is very one-on-one. You're interacting with all these different people. You're determining their fate. Feels much more intimate from a character interaction perspective, and it feels like you're having a more direct impact on individuals' lives rather than sort of the top-down perspective that you would get from a game like Spinnertality. As cool as I think that game was, I think this is pretty cool. I find this really interesting. So what we're going to do here to wrap this up, we're not nearly done the interrogation. Some of these interrogations can take 45 minutes or more. Some of them go on for quite a while. Some of them are quite quick. But the interesting thing is you can choose to end it at any time. You do have to fill out your entire report, and you will get docked points for getting answers wrong. but you will be rewarded for getting answers right. I ended up scoring very high on my approval rating by the end of the game. But let's just pick some things here. You know, we'll see. Let's just say that's unconfirmed. And we'll just pick these. And you can choose what to do. You can release the subject back into the world. You can send them for service, which doesn't destroy them, but will result in them getting essentially factory reset and having a lot of their memories and emotional states taken out, which, you know, brings up a lot of questions of, you know, are you playing God too much? Or you can hit decommission, which literally just electrocutes them and takes them out entirely. You'll have to do all three of these at different points. And sometimes the decision that you're expected to make and that will affect your rating the most is maybe not the one you feel you should make, either for your own reasons or for bigger story reasons. And you have to be willing to balance that, because you can't piss off your masters too much, but you also have to make sure that you follow the ethical path that you've chosen for this run with your character, right? Very interesting stuff. So we're going to send this guy to service. So when you're done, you submit it. It asks you to confirm it. See ya. And then it ends, and you come back to your little interlude space here. Like I said, and this is where you can really tell that the graphics in this game are very, very basic, right? It still gives you a neat sense of atmosphere, but this is not high fidelity. But it doesn't have to be either. You always get a little bit of a headline here talking about current events after each mission, and then you go down here, you take a look at your tablet, and it gives you the results. So here's the questions I answered. You know, this was in accordance. They like my answer here, so my company ranking went up. And if you screw up, so I did okay here. I could have done better, but I actually didn't lose any points, which you can lose. And you'll get sometimes you'll get some emails that are a result of, that sort of are tied into the result of your actions. Some of them kind of hit hard too, depending on the things that you pull off in this. And there you go. There's my current performance rating, exceeds expectations. I got this as high as 95 at one point. And because don't forget, there are opportunities to deceive in this as well. Let me just put it that way. So, yeah, I only wanted to show you one of the interrogations here because obviously this game being what it is, it's very hard to cover it in too much detail without being spoilery. And I didn't want to do that. But I ended up really enjoying this. This was one of my bigger surprise games this year. It's not very expensive, and it'll get you a minimum of 4 hours, much longer if you want to put in the time to do that. And I think people should definitely check it out. If you're into these kind of choice-heavy games and some really interesting character interactions and narratives, don't be put off by the simple graphics. The atmosphere is still there, and what this game is trying to accomplish, I personally think it does very well. And I hope this does well enough that these developers can work together again, because this was a really cool concept and something I could see getting expanded out into something much bigger down the road, which I would love to see. So yeah, that is Silicon Dreams. It is out now on PC. It's not on any of the consoles right now. It could be. I don't know if we'll ever see it there. Spinnertality never came to anything else, so I don't know if this will. But it's a cool game, and yeah, if you want something narrow and focused, but focused on something that it does really well, definitely check this out. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked what you saw here, please do all the normal YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about this. Do you know of other good games like this that I haven't heard of? Because I like stuff in this genre. I'd like to know what people think about it. Did you play this, and what conclusions did you reach, and what did you what did you think of where stuff went? I'd love to hear about that as well. And as always, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction for multiple variety streams a week. We often cover a lot of things that are better suited to Twitch that you won't see over here. Fantastic community of people over there, and we'd love to see you. So thanks very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next Indie Showcase. You folks have yourselves a great one. Take it easy, everybody.